Welcome to the Boss Too Hard podcast, where we dive into everything entrepreneurial. No topic, no conversation is off limits. And we have the perfect guest today.
Nothing is off limits with me, ever.
Joy, I don't know how many times you've made me cry because nothing is off limits.
Nothing is off limits. It just doesn't make sense to me to have these pocketed areas that you cannot discuss, whether it be being as a woman, being as a business owner, being as a mom, in every facet of our life. But I do recognize that you have to have a rapport with someone that can, ease into the no off limits. I just don't have that grace and mercy. I'm barreling in.
So what I can say is that you and I built rapport very easily.
Yes. You are an amazing person.
Oh, thank you.
You are such an amazing person. And it's easy to build rapport with someone that, for me, that I see definitely and intentionally wants to do something with their life. It's not the want to do something better or wants to do, it's just you want to do something.
Yeah.
And for me, that's an easier rapport to build because I kind of have this model of the 12. So when I think about the 12 disciples, or I think about the things from just different methodology that just goes on, that I'm like, I need 12 solid people.
Yeah.
And it's easier for me to build a rapport with someone when I recognize that they could be one of my 12. So thank you.
Thank you for having me as one of the 12.
Yeah.
We started our relationship when, Queenly was... My business I was maybe a year old.
Yeah.
I was still navigating some things.
Yes.
We laughed. We cried.
Yes.
But then we came up with something amazing.
Yes. When you were at the Black Business Summit, I was so thrilled to watch the people interact with you and to watch them walk away with you. That was something that I think in that moment I said, okay, yeah. We've created some pretty amazing things from the collaboration of Ione and Avia and Quilling Consulting, and as you are in your pivot phase now,
pivoting, lots of pivots.
Yes, and we've done lots of pivots, so that's just the growth cycle of it all.
I think that this partnership, what's been really, really beautiful about it is you're so creative, and Stefan is so creative.
Yeah,
and you create a space where vulnerability is almost forced. I mean, it's open if you want, like if you're willing to be vulnerable,
right? It's
open for you. But sometimes to break through in your business, to get down to the why, you've got to, there's walls that you've either got to take down or someone is going to break them down.
They have, And the 5 whys, you say, I want to do this. Well, why?
Yeah.
I want to do, and then after you answer that question, well, why is that your answer? And then, well, why is that your answer? And then, well, why is that your answer? It can become a very uncomfortable space. It can become the space that has you truly questioning, well, is that truly why? And for a lot of people, what we've discovered is so much of their why is surrounded in their pain.
Yeah.
And when you surround your life and or business in growth and development out of your pain, it becomes this thing that you're going to get stagnant in, or you're going to start feeling the uncomfortableness in, and it's not just you're coming against your comfortability or your comfort zone. At some point, at least when we do it, we try to get people that if they have come up against the cancerousness of the pain, a lot of people don't understand that trauma is the response to trauma starts a cycle, especially in business, but also in life. That I started because I saw something, or I didn't have the availability of something. I'll just use that as an example. No one was there for me, so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be there for everybody.
Oh, that's toxic.
But that's the trauma. That's people start their business because a business because I didn't have good financial conversations when I was young growing up. So I'm going to make sure that all the young people that I touch has good financial information. And they started not because young people need good financial education. They started it because they didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge difference
Yeah.
in how you approach things if it's because of their pain versus your pain.
Well, when you operate from a place of your pain versus their pain,
Mm-hmm.
like you're still stuck in that survivor victim type of mentality, when in business, your ideal position is to be the mentor.
You're the leader, you're the overcomer. You've already accomplished the thing. And you're now turning around to get those that are on the same road or want to be on the same road as you. But if you do it in pain, then it's almost as if you're doing I'm going to do this, or I'm going to put you on my back because we're all here together. And the weight of them as you try is catastrophic. I tell people all the time that we oftentimes don't correlate life experiences. And when I say that, it's when you think about any type of physical trauma,
Mm-hmm.
any type of physical trauma, if it is, I got a cut, the cut got infected, and I then had to have my arm amputated.
Dang, that's severe.
That's a trauma.
Yeah.
When you think of, hey, I had a traumatic brain injury, and what happened in that traumatic brain injury, it might have impacted my eyesight. It might have impacted my memory. There are phases of trauma that is either severing. Trauma can be parasitic, or trauma can be viral, very, very viral. So if you're in pain in your business, then you're going to do one of those three things or all of those three things. You're going to find yourself in a position where you're severing something that you didn't intend to sever, because you're focusing you're in your trauma, or you're going to become extremely parasitic, and it's going to start draining you, and it's going to start draining the people that you're trying to help, or you're going to end up being a virus to them as to where they can't escape their pain and you can't escape yours.
Dang, Joy. See, this is why you're my people. So I came in, I didn't even get to really introduce you.
All right.
I don't even know what you do yet. But this is how I operate. I don't do small talk. Are we going to talk or are we going to talk?
Yeah, that's how we are. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay, but hold on, because I got a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
And I think it's really important that we dive into really real life situations, how this shows up.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why you're so passionate about this is at Ione and Avia, you guys do business. You do business coaching, you do business consulting, but that's not what you call it.
No.
It's business counseling.
You are on our chair. You're in a chair. Lay down. And we don't do the circle the smiley faces or the circle your emotions and tell us how you felt today. That's no. It's the true counseling that goes beyond the moment of, I want to see revenue growth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to see revenue growth. What have you been doing in order to get revenue growth? Okay, well, why do you think that particular thing that you're doing to get revenue growth is the thing that you should be doing to get revenue growth? And from there, it just becomes a bigger thing, because business owners are the foundation of their businesses, whether they're solo, whether they're small, or whether they're huge. Their ethos, their moral fortitude, everything about the owner is the foundation of what that thing becomes. And when you think of that, if I, as the owner, have not gotten to the point where I have either healed my trauma or I have made the necessary adaptations for my trauma, then that trauma is in the soil, or it's in the cement that my business is being built on. And I don't know how many countless people that we've had to go in and basically break up that foundation and say, no, let that virus out. No, let that virus out, because this plateau that you're on is because that's there.
I think we experienced that when I had my first business counseling session with you.
Yes.
And I think back to it, and I don't really even know why, because it seems so far away. But Queenly Consulting is it's such an extremely feminine name,
Mhm.
right? And even today, like, why Queenly Consulting is a long story. We'll tell another day. But, and there is a story behind that. But I was really niching myself into wanting to serve women and to coach women
Mhm.
and teach women. And I guess it comes from a space of having to be so independent and being forced into that
Mhm.
independence that I had to teach myself everything.
Mhm.
And there was really no viable mentor for me in that process of growth. And so that idea that I wanted to be that for someone else, I think that's what it was rooted in.
Mhm.
But the reality is after we talked and we broke that down and really figured out like why that was living there, we came into experience healthy movement in your
Yes.
business. And that was like, oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Like,
That's really who you are.
yes.
Yeah, it was more than I want to help women. Okay, you want to help women. You want to help women do what? And why do you want to help women? And whether it be not your situation specifically, but a lot of women that I've dealt with that want to help women, it's because they didn't have a really good relationship with their mom. And or they didn't have a really good relationship with women as they were growing up.
Yeah.
You know, I endured that also.
Mhm.
So I started doing the studies that said, okay, women that didn't have real strong women or their relationship with other women that was kind of askew when they were younger, why do we grow up and want to help women? And then, but for me, I had to ask, why did I grow up and not? That wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
I was, skip all of them. They are not healthy for me.
Yeah.
And so it was once we start delving into the truth of what our reaction was to the trauma. So it's the stress, the post-traumatic stress. What's that stressor? That's why they say we have triggers. And basically all that is our own bodies trying to give us the out.
Yeah.
It's trying to give us the ability to go through that adaptation process. What I was talking about correlation, when you think about it, if you're sick, we don't think about physical trauma the same way we think about mental trauma. And the question is, why don't we? The answers that we already know, certain answers that we divisively say, well, it can't be applicable here because I've applied it to the physical. And if you have a cold or a flu, what are you going to do? Stay at home. You're going to take some vitamin C. You're going to take plenty of fluids. You're going to sleep a long time. So why is it that when we have something going on in our business, we don't know that, hey, we need to go find what is the vitamin C for this? I need a lot more fluids. But more importantly, we don't go to work.
It's that, I hate to say it, but that hustle mindset that we have to keep going, keep working. But we're called to operate from a place of rest. And once you step out of everything that's causing the storm in your brain, because that's, to me, not everybody would use that analogy, but when I'm walking through that, it's like there is a storm, cloud, thunder, lightning, rumbling, and it's all happening at the same time. And it's like, how do you calm the storm? And it's driving away from it, or you can weather the storm, but where do you weather the storm?
Exactly.
And shelter. Exactly. Where are you seeking shelter?
It's just amazing to me, especially I'm not going to say just women. I've seen it in men also, that hustle mentality has put them in a position as to where they think they have to do it.
I think entrepreneurs as a whole.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
And it is your vision. It is your baby. but respect your seasons.
That's good.
There was one time before Ione and Avia, when I was back in my other company, and I had to realize that my season was not to be the CEO. It was my turn to be the chief advocate. And I had to relinquish that CEO, the executive of driving it, to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified. Like, oh, no, 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 no. I have to do it. So I have to be the CEO and the advocate. And I drove myself insane until I was able to relinquish and say, right now, that storm over there in the executive space isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even do that. I have to advocate. And the hustle mentality tells us we have to do it all the time. And that's not the case.
Well, it's not possible. Really and truly, it's
Try to convince
not.
somebody of that. But yeah, it is not.
I've been there, and I'm exiting a season of hustle
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with a busy day, but I want a slow evening and a slow weekend, and I want to do the things that matter to me. And I was reminded by that when I first started. The goal was to work 30 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Work 30 hours a week, still be able to work out, be there for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized my social media manager, Brooke, she sent me a post that I posted about that,
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago. And she's like, hey, can we create this? And I told her after I thought about it, I was like, you reminded me of how far away I've gotten from what I originally wanted. And it's not because I'm lazy or that I don't want to work hard. But the reality is that I knew that there was a way to do it different.
Mm-hmm.
But I got caught up in the way everybody else thinks it has to be done.
And that's very, very key that you said that, the getting caught up in what everyone else thinks. And when we pull back and realize, hey, there's a trend, sure, but the trend that everybody else is doing, everybody isn't me. And I'm not everybody. My grandmother told me when I was real young, and I did not grasp it when she said it at all. But when it came to business, she gave me this advice. She said, you can follow the market and make money, or follow the money and make a market. And for the longest time, I found myself following the trends of the market. Well, we're doing this now. We're doing faceless. We're doing that. We're doing this. We're doing all of it. We're doing podcasts. And you get caught up in wanting to do
Joy.
it all.
I'm doing a podcast.
You do that, but that's your call.
Yeah.
For this season.
Yeah.
If I did a podcast right now, today, if I started a podcast today, that's not my call for this
I'd be like,
season.
Joy, what are you doing?
Right. That's not my call for this season.
Yeah.
And so it's not that don't do it. It's know when to do it.
Yeah.
Know why you're doing it. And by God, don't do it just because somebody else is doing it. That's taken away from you. That's taken away from your authenticity. That's taken away from your true purpose. It's taken away from your passion, because you're then feeding into somebody else's thing. And it's not true.
So that following the trend piece, that following the market, I think that's something we really need to unpack, because I'm in marketing. I do a lot of digital marketing, but the reality is so many businesses survived without digital marketing and are surviving without it. And that just because everyone else is doing it, or everyone is telling you that you should be doing it, doesn't mean you should. We're getting ready to launch our course, and one of the modules is driving traffic to your business. I literally list probably 15 ways. I go over 15 ways in that module of how to drive traffic to your business. Very few of them are digital.
Right.
Oh, well, that's a lie. I mean, there's a handful that are digital, but there's a lot of other ways too. But it's that pressure to do what everyone else is doing. And I think when you operate your business from a place of trauma, because you don't know how to identify with yourself, you don't know how to identify with your purpose and your calling, because we both know they're different. you're going to be swept away by every shiny thing. And you're going to think because everybody else is doing it that, oh, that's what you should be doing it too, rather than staying in your lane and owning it.
Well, remember when I said trauma, that the aspect of trauma that is severing.
Unpack that.
It severs you from you. You have no consciousness of your true self, your true meaning, your true purpose. Because I had a therapist once that he took me through this process of helping me recognize that I had a shield up, and the shield was supposed to be protecting things from hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing got in, but I also didn't get out. And so we did this practice of me walking, and I was standing in one place. So we did a practice of me walking and pushing the shield forward so that I didn't get stuck in this one spot. And that was great. I was like, oh yeah, this is wonderful. I'm moving along, and but I'm still being protected.
Mm-hmm.
Until one time we got to a session, and he said, okay, you're moving your bubble forward. You're not stuck and stagnant in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
But look around your bubble. Everything that you encased in your bubble with you stayed with you even as you're moving forward. And that was an aha moment for me, because I was like, I am getting married because everybody told me I should, at the wrong time, with the wrong person, because it was supposed to be good for me. I am going to this school because everybody told me that I was supposed to go where God resides, at Oral Roberts University. And it was the wrong place. I had a free ride at Howard University. It was the wrong thing, but it was my fear of not being accepted.
Mm-hmm.
It was my fear of not being appreciated. It was my fear of not being respected. It was my fear of being shunned. So I was doing all of those things and I was doing great in school. But because I was doing it because I was scared of my mom and dad not being happy with me, I didn't get the full width of what the education that I was trying to get could have been, because I bypassed the God-given free ride to Howard University. So it severs. So because I functioned in that fear, it severed possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
It severed my belief in, my ability to gain a certain belief in myself, because I stayed functioning in that trauma of why my parents were mad at me in the first place. And it wasn't even mine. It was theirs.
I think that this idea or this necessity for us all to feel accepted, it drives a lot of unhealthy decisions. And it's as big as missing out on an opportunity or not pursuing a calling in your life, to not respecting your own boundaries. This idea that you should be available for everyone and everybody's opinion matters is extremely, it's toxic in so many different ways.
I would say that's deadly. It's so...
People pleasing is a poison.
It is, but...
Oh, but? Okay,
but
let's hear the but.
The but is the recognition. If I can recognize that I'm a people pleaser, no matter what the trauma is that caused the people pleasing in me, I have to ask myself, do I enjoy pleasing people? I absolutely do. I absolutely do. However, Oxford comma at that, I had to get to the point of where I recognize something that is potentially harmful and say and mean, and then begin to go forward in, I will please people as long as that pleasing is not detrimental to myself.
And I think that's the key point.
Yes.
How often are we doing things for others at our own expense?
Exactly.
And it's not to say that we shouldn't stretch ourselves for the people that we love. It doesn't mean that, we can't shift things or we can't identify when one thing is more important than the other. But the reality is, if we do that over and over and over again to the point where our cup is just drained and we're pouring into everybody else.
Oh, I don't know if my former spouse is going to watch this podcast.
I'm going to tag you.
I pray that he does.
I'm going to send it to him.
I pray that he does. He's my best friend to this day. I mean, hands down, absolute best friend. But when we were going through one of our challenges, and it was at the cusp of when we were separating, I remember him, and my father was ill at the time, and him and my father were, that's his only son-in-law. I was crying standing in Vanderbilt University's car garage because I needed to go to Mississippi to see my dad, and he wasn't going to go with me. And I couldn't fathom. And I blanked out on him, started cussing him out up and down, and you don't love me, and da-da-da-da-da. And he looked me in my face as calm and collected as he possibly can be. He said, Joy, I absolutely love you. I just love me more.
That's like a movie line.
Broke me in so many places.
Yeah.
But to this day, when I talk to him, I say, I have to tell him thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because once I finally heard it, I heard the fact, and I recognized that him not going wasn't that he was not being there for me. Him not going wasn't that he didn't care about my father anymore or any of those things. What he had going on in his own life in that moment had to take precedence over going with me.
Yeah.
And I respect that now so much. I was like, you taught me that. And I was in my 30s, 40s when I finally learned it's okay to love and be able to say, A, your love isn't enough. I love you and I know you love me, but your love isn't enough. Or B, I love you, but I'm still going to do what's best for me. And we can talk about, how that is impacting you. We can talk about how or why I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing instead of what you need me to do. But at the end of the day, if I take on sacrificing myself, here's the thing that I recognize. When I sacrifice myself, I nullify the cross. And I refuse to do that any longer. That's not my task to do.
So this idea of I love you, but I love me more. Love is a two-way street, right? It goes both ways. And love is an action.
Right. It's not an emotion.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's not an emotion.
Love is an action that produces an emotion, but it's an action because actions lead and feelings follow. But this whole self-sacrificing bit that we all do, it shows up in our relationships. But if you do it in your relationships, you're also going to do it in your business. And the thing is, usually if you do it in your business, it shows up in your revenue because, I want to help them. I'll reduce my price. I'll put in more hours. And the same thing that happens in your personal relationships where you sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice. You plant a root that's bitter and it continues to grow deeper and you become bitter towards your clients and you don't want to serve them anymore.
You become bitter towards your business. You don't want to do it anymore. It's not just the clients. You actually contemplate walking away from what you spent so much time in development and growing because I've sacrificed and it has not yielded the return I expected it to.
But it was
your choice.
Your choice.
You did it.
You did it. You didn't have to. And I think we've all been there in business.
Yes. And it's that cycle. It's what I call the cycle of trauma. So when you start, I tell people, don't start from your pain because when you heal from it, you lose your passion. Because once you get to the position as to where that doesn't hurt me anymore, or I don't feel the same way about whatever it is I felt, then you start feeling guilty about being better because now I don't want to deal with that particular segment of people, or I don't have the same amount of passion for that segment of people. And then because now I feel guilty about it, I've now trapped myself back in trauma because I'm going to force myself to keep remembering it. I'm going to force myself to keep living it. I'm going to force myself to keep being rooted in it instead of allowing myself to transplant and be someplace in different soil.
Well, it's this concept that it's not personal, it's business, right? We say this a lot, but it all kind of comes together.
Your EIN, and that's why I say we don't correlate. When you set up an EIN or when you set up an LLC, what is attached to it?
The business.
Your social security number. So how can I say that my business entity is totally separate from me? When it began, I couldn't get business credit without them looking at my credit.
Yeah.
I couldn't get in any doors without it being me that they evaluated to see if I could get in the door, until that EIN starts growing and becoming an entity, the baby that is you are now developed, and now it has its brand. Now it has its, it has its message. It has its thing that might be different slightly from you. But again, you are still the foundation of it.
Yeah.
So it's not just business, it's personal.
So I think that when we look at unresolved trauma, there's a couple different things that come to mind, like right away when we look at business. So lack, living in a space where there was not enough of something will cause you to operate in lack in your business. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough resources. And it will cause you to make decisions because you can't get out of that space where you create your own opportunities and you stay stuck there. There is the idea of relationships, whether if you've never been able to have good boundaries, if you've got mom issues, dad issues, you were abused, whatever it may be, if you don't handle that, that's going to show up in the way that you engage with your employees.
And your clients.
Yes.
Yes, it is need, greed, all stem from lack. And in business, if you're functioning from that position of lack, you might find yourself doing things that you battle with yourself morally, you battle with yourself ethically, but sometimes it overrules because I don't want to be without.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So I might do a little shady this, or I might do something that is not true to me because this is the trend. I can't twerk with a darn, but twerking was a trend. And if you gonna get on TikTok, little preacher's kid, because that's the trend. But what would my grandchildren have said? What would I have been doing? But there are people that, because we got twerkers out here now, 56-year-old twerkers, because that's the need. I need to go viral on TikTok. I need to go viral on Instagram. And that's not really benefiting your business, because when you do things out of lack, the clients that you get
are not the
perfect client for you. They are feeding the energy that you are putting out.
Yeah.
And you end up with people that can't pay you. You end up with people that need payment plans. You end up with people that devalue you. And then again, the cycle. Then you'll start wondering, am I valuable?
Should I even be doing this?
They don't even want to pay me $500.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you know what? Let me deal with this lack thing that I have going on in my mind that I recognize I grew up with, or that I recognize I'm functioning from. And how do I go from lack to plenty?
Yeah.
And focusing and working from and doing your business from a mindset of plenty, even in the season of lean, your clients they just creme de la creme.
Yes.
They might be few and far between, but they're creme de la creme.
Shifting that in Queenly, like I have the clients that I have right now, I really, really like. And I'm so happy I don't just work with women anymore, right? Because some of my best clients aren't even women, you know? Like, dang, look at everything I would have missed out on.
Exactly.
But you've got to resolve that. And sometimes it takes a while.
And the other thing is, well, not the other, another thing is society tells you how to resolve it. And they're not always right.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go back to the example of the amputee. You know, there are prosthetics. And if someone is trying to deal with their trauma and they're trying to get fitted for a prosthetic, society says that you're being fake. And that's not the case. Now, if you're trying to have the prosthetic and say that it's your natural arm, instead of just being honest to say, you know what, I had this trauma, lost my arm, I had to get this prosthetic, the prosthetics works just fine.
Yeah.
That's totally different. So the figuring out how to go from lack to plenty, and we had one season where it was fake it till you make it. Then you had another season that it was, oh no, just make sure you are transparent enough and tell people that you struggle with lack, and that'll fix the lack problem in you. And then it was a whole nother wave of, well, you know, we understand and we're going to coddle you in this space of you have this issue or this trauma, and you don't have to deal with it. You really don't have to deal with it. You just have to get past it. You just have to get over it. And all of those things, I think we just don't have a wide or broad enough conversation, because getting over things, there is a point where you have to say enough is enough.
Mm-hmm. So in your experience as a business counselor, right? Business counselor.
Oh, yeah.
So what have been some of those enough is enough moments that you've seen your clients walk through?
When it is either you are or you are not, stop pretending, stop trying. So the enough is enough is, I've seen clients where they have said, I am not working with this group of people anymore, because not that the group of people weren't doing what they needed to do. I'm the wrong person to be with that group of people. And I'm the wrong person, and I'll use me as an example. I'm the wrong person to help and assist rape victims. I'm just the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be because it's going to bring up too many bad memories for me, or whether it's going to be, I'm going to look at the victim and say, why are you still there? Because I've gotten here. So that's not healthy for them, and it's not healthy for me. However, I have a client that's their whole thing. So me wanting to be there for the rape victim, I had to recognize I couldn't do it personally, but I could benefit someone that could do it personally. So the enough is enough is when you absolutely recognize your limitations. Well, I call them your limitless limitations, because it is the space where you identify what's healthy and what's not healthy, not only for you, but for your business going forward. It's the place that says, I'm not going to do this because it's not profitable. I'm not going to do this because it doesn't generate revenue. I'm not going to, and revenue and profit are different. You know, I'm not going to do this because it does not speak to my ethics or my moral or my philosophy in business. You have to get to, I'm not enough. It's just enough.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the continuing to go down a road. We have this old saying that To continue to do the same thing, expecting different results, is insanity.
Yeah, that's not actually the definition of insanity.
It is not actually. Stefan and I do that. It's not. It's not. That's the old saying.
Yeah.
That if you, but you get the gist of, if you keep doing this, trying to convince yourself that this is going to turn out differently when 50 times over it has not. One, have you done the evaluation that says, why hasn't it? And in that evaluation, you might see, I might be doing the right thing the wrong way. Or I might just be doing the absolute wrong thing.
I think we like to put ourselves in a box, and then we want to stay in the box, because as people, as humans, we're allowed to evolve. We're allowed to change our minds. And there's been this, what's the word I'm looking for? Stigma.
Oh God.
Placed on failure. And so we have a bunch of people that are pretending because they don't want to look like failures, when the reality is you would be so much more successful doing something else.
I'm curious as to why that is still a stigma. We've got so much information out there now that says fail forward, fail fast. You know, there's so much information that shows the benefit of failure. And again, the lack of correlation. Did you walk without falling?
You may not agree with me, and it's okay if you don't. But I don't think we've given people safe spaces to fail. Look at the college system, for example. You get an F. Like, we give this financial aid.
Right.
We want
But you have to keep a GPA.
Yes. And God forbid you take a class or change a major or withdraw, and then you lose your funding or you have to pay it back. We live in a space where there are some major repercussions for failure. And I don't know if we're not giving people a safe space to fail when they're young. We're not giving people enough opportunities to explore what their calling is. We're not setting up the good expectations that our real purpose on earth is to serve one another. No matter what you are doing, you are going to serve someone else. You are going to do something that is going to better someone else's life, directly or indirectly. How you do it, that's a whole nother story.
I wholeheartedly agree with you in the dynamic that society at large has not given that safe space. Where I challenge that statement, it's not even a challenge of the statement. Society at large has not given people that safe space. And when are we going to tell people that society doesn't dictate it? When are we going to tell the kids in our own home or in our own community or our kids' friends that society has failed in and of itself? So how can it then be so hypocritical to deem that you should not? We've done so many things that prove error and retry. Error and retry. That's the whole basis for science. We've created languages.
We can't prove our hypothesis without testing it.
So how, again, the correlation aspect, when we look at life and we say society has not given us a safe space, society's not supposed to. It's not their job. It's the house that I'm in. And if the house fails me, then at some point in time, as I continue to grow and develop, I have to recognize what is true.
You've got to seek it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just because society doesn't give me the safe space, so what?
We could go on a whole nother topic about seeking out, like, betterment, pursuing growth. That whole healthy movement. I don't care if it's one step forward, it's two steps back. We are moving.
Yes.
We are not staying stagnant. Like, there's this idea of movement physically, spiritually, mentally is something that I am so extremely passionate about. And we can just
talk on that
for years.
But
But this reality of finding it
Mm-hmm.
And so as entrepreneurs, when we realize that there are things that are coming up from our personal that are translating into our business,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not producing healthy movement, it's not friction in a good way, it's not in alignment,
Mm-hmm.
you've got that gut feeling that enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
What steps do you take to resolve it?
Pause. And pausing is okay. Even if pausing means that I'm losing revenue or losing profitability for 3 to 6 months to a year. A lot of times people don't do good risk management or risk planning.
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many different things that go into I didn't plan financially correctly, or I didn't so I can't pause. No, you absolutely can take a step back. It is, when I take the step back, what do I have to do in order to maintain my standard of living? Can I adjust my standard of living? Do I go get a job again?
Mm-hmm.
Do I find other ways that are going to sustain me for the duration of my pause so that I can do a reevaluation? When you get to the point that enough is enough, and it takes you down a road of confusion, it takes you down a road of fear, it could take you down a road of depression, because I've given all of this time and
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing my sunk cost now. The pause is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Above all else, just stop.
Yeah.
And in the stop, work out the movement.
Yeah. Is that something that you teach people? Do you
Yes.
teach people how to pause?
Yes, I tell people all the time. It is, and every person is different. So we have to look at their finances.
Yeah.
We have to look at their family. You know, if you stop, is your husband working? Do you have a husband? You know, do you have a secondary person? So
Yeah.
it's not, and I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you for asking that, because in today's world, we have so many sound bites.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so many 1, 2, 3s that have much more inside of them, that we are leaving people with the 1 or the A without the indent.
Yeah.
You know, the outline is great, but
Yeah.
there's usually an indent
But there
in
should
there.
be some more in there.
Yeah, like and so it's unique to each person what that stop looks like.
Yeah. So I think this is a really good place for us to wrap up our conversation.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people, so many businesses out there that will teach you how to go.
Oh God.
But very few businesses will tell you to slow down.
Mm-hmm. And back up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Reevaluate.
Let's reevaluate.
Yes.
And so, Joy, if someone wanted to run, because you can help somebody do that too.
Yes.
But if someone is needing to figure out how to slow down, how to pause, because that's just as important.
It is. It's rest.
Yes.
The day starts tonight.
How do they get in touch with you?
EONIANAVIA.com.
You gotta
No
spell
one
that,
knows
girl.
how to spell it. I know. AEONIANOVIA.
And what does Eon and Avia mean?
Lasting for an immeasurably long period of time in new birth.
Amazing. Joy, I love you.
I am so excited about this. I really am. I'm so excited. And I tell people all the time that you are so much more than a social media manager. You are so much more than a digital marketer. You have so much more in you. You are a healthy, life-moving person.
I didn't even ask for that. Look at that. Joy just went and closed the podcast on good note. You heard that? You
Get in touch with her for real.
You need healthy movement in your business.
Yes.
You follow up with me.
Yes.
You need a healthy pause in your business.
give us a call.
You give us joy. Thank you so much for being with us this week. And we will see you on the next episode of the Boss Too Hard podcast.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that name. Girl.